Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode we have the Gmelina. Gonna choose some branches to keep and shorten up. About 2 years ago, the Minnesota Bonsai Society's tropical plant, one of them, was a Gmelina, also known as a parrot's beak. So if you let this thing grow and grow and grow and grow and don't cut it back for a couple of years, you might get some flowers on here that kind of resemble that of a parrot's beak. Because we're bonsai-fying this and keeping it in its compact form, I will not expect any flower blooms anytime soon. But in the last couple of weeks, this has completely taken off. And so I don't want the wrong branch in the wrong spot to get too thickened up and make some big scars on the trunk. So I'm going to go ahead and spin this around a little bit, and we're going to see which branches we may keep. Now we have a front that could be here and a front that could be here. And you'll notice two of the branches come right out at us here, and one kind of comes out at us here. But if we just slightly turn this angle here, this becomes more of a side branch. So I'm going to spin it around, take a peek. Let's see what we got to work with. There is a root right here coming out towards us. It's not right in the center. It's kind of going this way and then back to the left. So that certainly is a potential front. And then we have the side over here that has no root here. That also could be the potential front of this tree. So the thing I really have to look at here is what I did with those old branches. If you want to check out the last prune I did with this tree, I actually guy wired. That's what these wires are here. I guy wired a couple of branches down. And so this is going down, and you can see that all these branches here now, this one's coming from way down here. This is an entirely new branch right down at the base here. So I've got 3 or 4 new branches that just took off this year once it hit outside. And I'm not going to keep them all. That one's maybe a little low. But this branch also has some new growth all the way around here, a couple of died off sections here. But I want to see what was going to be that front of that tree. So upon closer inspection, here's an old branch here. It's very thick in there. Yeah, and I think this was the front. The way the big chop was here, and this branch kind of comes, this branch right here, you see that right there? It's kind of coming out towards the camera and then out over this way, and then you're going to get this right here. So a lot of times I talk to the new folks about bonsai trees, and we want them to kind of give us a hug and wrap this way and not all go away that way. You know, we have windswept left and right, but this one is kind of coming out and it wants to kind of hug us a little bit more this way, as I recall, and that is the case. So I'm going to work at it as this is the front for now. And again, with bonsai, you know that can always change. And so the guy wire, I'm not sure if we need the guy wire anymore. I think I'm going to take this one off real quick and see what it does. Yeah, it didn't even move. Didn't even move. Now it might move over time. That one's bent down a little bit now. Let's look at this one. I don't think it moved up too much. We'll kind of play with it and see. So first off, I have a couple of dead branches here. That one didn't make it. This one didn't make it, but there's these new growth. Look at that right there, took over. We can probably leave those two alone. Here's another one growing from the bottom, way underneath. So all the harsh cutback I did, again, go check out the last episode of this work on the Gmelina in my playlist. You'll be able to see what we did. This one's coming out at us and is dead. Clip the leaf with that one. This one died off right there. We can see this one up at the tip. Did not make it. We have another dead one in here that did not make it. A couple more here. And then from this angle, from what I can see, those are the dead pieces for right now. So looking at this as the front, and again, I can change the front here maybe slightly this way, so this root goes more to the left. So you've got a slight angle to it. Yeah, this branch is just too low. We're going to go ahead and cut that one off. The Gmelinas will root pretty well. I could put that in the ground into some dirt, bonsai soil, and probably get some propagation out of that. Now, this one's coming right out at us. So that one has to go. Again, right there, we have a couple more Gmelinas if we want to. Just a little bit of cleanup there. There we go. And there's our leaning tree. Now this branch is new. It's in the back, but that'll provide some good texture. I like that. We're just going to go ahead and maybe we'll leave that one on for some sacrificial growth to the girth of the tree, and then we'll just shorten it later on in the year. We're just going to maybe let that one run. So this one's coming out at us, so we're going to go ahead, cut that one way back at the moment. I see a good branch down deep in here. The leaf right here to go to the left, so I'm going to cut off the right leaf here, and here's the new leaf right here. And if you can see on this tree, if I can zoom up and post a little bit, here's the main leaf, and there's two little ones right there and there. So there's plenty of growth there, and there's even two more smaller leaves back there. So I cut that one back to 4. But we're going to hope that this takes off and becomes a dominant branch and shoots up more that way to give us some of that changing direction. Now on this branch, this one moves kind of in front of our face, so I'm going to cut it way back to the little leaves here, and we'll see if something comes up more this way. We can leave this one alone for right now. One of the things I've learned about the Gmelinas so far is that when I've cut these indoors in the winter time, I get real stagnated growth, leaves fall off and get stressed. This has just pushed out an enormous amount of growth in the early or late spring, early summer. We've got almost all of July and August and some of September for this to push out another flush of growth. So I'm not too worried about this losing, even if it did lose a lot of its leaves, it's going to push them right back up again. So that's kind of this front lower section here. So we have you can kind of see a cute little tree if we cut everything short back, real thick. The leaves are a little bit big. We like all these little leaves up here. So let's see. This is the one we just cut up. We're going to save this one a little bit. Let's see where that one's growing from. So unfortunately, it's growing from this one that we had guy wired. It's growing from the base of that growing out. And there's one behind it. No, there's not one behind it. Let's try to give you a real sense of what's going on here. So here's the guy wired branch right here, right there. We had that guy wired down. Nothing's growing from the surface of that branch except for underneath it, right here, where it curves up and we curved it down. There's this branch coming up right here, which is kind of a weird direction for a branch. I don't even know if I'm going to end up keeping that. But what is better is right here. This branch right here, if we turn this thing around, trying to see where that grows from. Yeah, that's growing from the same spot as the one that we guy wired. So that can become the new branch. And even though I guy wired it down here to get some floor out here, this one is in a pretty good spot, and if it takes over for that, those would be two crossing branches. I could leave this one here and we could wire it out, but it's kind of just a really weird position there. So see, it's right at the base, right there. So I will cut this little nub off right here. We'll cut a little nub off here. And we can always see what will still back bud on this thicker guy wired branch. Maybe we'll get one that'll come from these cut points and grow right there. So all we'll do is we'll shorten this one here, shorten this big one here, and we'll look at that for the moment. So pulling back, here is the first one I cut. Here's the second one growing under. And if we want the branch to grow out more this way, we can utilize this leaf back here. This one back here can maybe now shoot out more this way, more out. This is still a little long. We'll cut it shorter. And we're just going to monitor the growth there. This branch right here is growing right from the base of the trunk. It's high enough on the tree and it's growing up that we might be able to keep that branch. And it kind of makes up for this tip of the branch up here that is not showing much life up top. I think what we'll do is we're going to cut off this wire right here. We'll cut off some wire here. And then this old tip can go bye-bye. So there we go, we cut that off. And there's a new branch right here growing from that, and this one as well. So we have these two that make up our new apex from that old cut point, which is kind of nice. So there's a little bit of a scar here that we can kind of clean up a little bit. There we go. And we'll see which one of these two does better. We'll cut them shorter and see. Now, because this is the big growing season, I think I'm going to cut the rest of this wire off. There we go. And we have a little bit more in there. It's so thick in here that that is no way visible for you all. But taking off a piece of wire in a couple locations down here. Here we go. Now we are clean of wire. That's nice. And we continue. So again, our apex right here. Our apex has these two here. This is probably the stronger contender. I'll leave that a little bit longer and I'll cut that one a little bit shorter. So back over here we have this beautiful branch growing, again, kind of next to the first branch there. So it's kind of in a decent spot. We're just going to cut it shorter. We're just going to let it push out another growth and we'll see. Whoops. This one we were going to keep out for a sacrificial branch. I think we'll cut it here and let it push out. Sacrifice right there. Let's go a little shorter on that one. So we have these two back here now. So this back branch provides some nice back texture to this tree. And from this angle here, if this is kind of our front, and even a little bit to the angle here, we got this growing now from our apex and our right side. I've got this over here that we could, of course, wire more into position there, but letting it grow naturally. This one's growing really wonky the other direction. I'm going to cut it real short. We're just going to cut this short as well, and we're just going to let them grow. I would have to defoliate this quite a lot to see some of the directions that we'd want on this. So I'm keeping this branch long to thicken up the bottom of the trunk some more and make that a real thick primary branch, that first branch off the trunk. And even though it's to the back a little bit, we might be able to manipulate it later with some growth this direction. And again, depending upon where we put that front. And if this ever becomes the front right here, with that root in the back hiding, this is not a horrible front except for this branch we talked about earlier. This could be a beautiful branch off to that right side. So I really like the way that looks right here. The front would have to go though. So that could be a future decision, so we'll let this get thicker and just let it go. This one we'll cut a little bit shorter. Let's just go ahead and cut that one down to there, that one down to there. I'm going to cut that one. I think we're going to go down to the next set of leaves. So it's super thick. So now I'll let the sun get in there. I'm going to thin it out just a little bit here. We've got all kinds of leaves coming from inside this really thick section of growth. And the interesting thing about these Gmelinas is sometimes you get the kind of the frog foot or the duck foot look to them, kind of an ivy feel to them, and then the other leaves are kind of more oval. So if you can see on here, that has a lot of those duck foot. But then you can come up here and you've got an oval leaf right here. There's an oval one kind of right there, and there's the duck kind of pattern right there, that ivy look. The bigger they are, the more they are smoothing out here. And again, I'm just going to thin this out a little bit, let some light in there. We got multiple leaves growing from the same spot. So it's just going to be super thick if we don't cut some of these leaves off and give it some space for the sun to get in there. A lot of branches going in, clusters of 3 and 4. Really a healthy, robust tree right now, which is great. This is when we want to work on our trees, when our trees are super healthy. Downward facing branches here, we don't want those. Hope that last wire finally snuggled out of there. Downward leaf, this one's too close to the trunk. You have to remember, when you have a whole bunch of trees like I do, and these trees are all real close together, sometimes that can invite those pests too, because they got so many places to hide. So cleaning out some of these real thick areas is also going to kind of help with the pest control, let some air flow through these branches, and I just think it's really good overall for the plant. So just a little bit of thinning. There's so many leaves in here. I couldn't even begin to count them all. Yeah, it's a little thinner in there. This great big leaf here with 4 little ones right behind it ready to grow, so I'm not worrying about losing too much vigor there. Okay. So now when you spin the tree around, you can kind of see the trunk a little bit more. And we'll see what shoots out next for our next decision makers. I think we'll leave this one where it's at right now. Of course, if you all know me well enough, I say that, put the scissors down, and I find one I want to keep on. Let's go ahead and give it a 360 for y'all. So these two, we'll probably keep this one and get rid of that one. We'll leave that one up there. This back has got a couple of new directions of growth. The tip up here, you can see that nice movement there coming up here, the new top. Sacrificial to possibly be a primary branch down the road. And then thinned it all out in there. And there we have our tree somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. With the little elephant there from my daughter. She got me on one of her trips around the world. And there we have our Gmelina all wrapped up, tidied up, and ready for another push in summer. My neighbor across the way there is doing some power washing. I hope it's not coming too loud on the monitor, but I'm sure it is. So that's going to wrap it up here. Hey, a big thanks to all the well wishes from everybody with the old kidney stones. Maybe the next episode might be TMI, too much information, but if I show you these stones, it just might make you cringe. But feeling a little bit better. I'm doing 1 episode a day here the last couple of days just because I love to sit at the editing bay and just work on a video because I just have to lay low. So a little working on a tree has not been too overwhelming for me. We've got so much work to do that 1 a day is not asking too much, I don't think. A lot of you telling me to slow down. Boy, I'm still working on that. But thanks for all the support, everybody. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for the Gmelina. More stuff to do, but until those projects, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you very, very soon.